Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. My name's Kenneth Branagh, and it's well, it is. And I just wanted to, thank you for coming. And immediately, because you don't want to hear from me, but you do want to hear from the amazing filmmakers, one of whom is stuck in traffic at the moment, but he will be along. But for now, please welcome the amazing Ryan Coogler and Miles Caton. Welcome, and for Ryan, I'm going to start with you and say immediately thank you very much, and congratulations on what I think is an absolutely brilliant film. Thank you very much, so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. So filmmakers sometimes say there are three films at least. There's the one that you plan, there's the one that you shoot, and there's the one that you edit, and they can be the same film. Sometimes they can be different. So tell us a little, if you can, about whether or how much the film changed from original conception to final execution. You have so many things in there, such a rich mix. You have beautiful love stories, there's a thriller, there's a political allegory, there's a celebration of music, there's a ton of things. Was it all there from the beginning?
Yeah, I think all of those elements were there in the initial screenplay, but they weren't as fleshed out as they were. I would say the film got much richer than the film that was written, just from the contributions of primarily the actors, as well as my heads of department. Everybody brought their full selves to this, all of their ideas, and a lot of personal stakes were brought into the movie in a way that I could have never imagined. And so the film that we actually shot got much bigger and richer, than anything I could have imagined in the screenplay. And then the film changed more in the edit as well. Like, I know, Miles, you came and saw while we were like one of the earlier cuts before we locked. You had a lot of notes. We found some brilliant juxtapositions, a different opening, that was initially written. I've been working with my picture editor, Michael Shaver, for since we were in film school together. And we found so much, man, in these guys' performances that I kind of maybe missed on the day or didn't totally notice, and we're able to craft something that I'm incredibly, I'm in awe of what we finished with, to be honest with you.
Well, tell me, in that process, what perhaps was the thing that surprised you the most?
It's a great question. Nobody's asked me that yet. I would say, honestly, the story always was very weird to me, very personal. It started from a place of my relationship with my late uncle, who introduced me to blues music, and he died in 2015, and I was, he was the oldest man that I knew for most of my life, and I wasn't able to be there when he passed away because I was working on a movie. I was working on Creed. And that guilt, I think the film is kind of like embedded with, that sense of longing and grief, but also like love and nostalgia, and like somehow everybody on the movie kind of brought their version of that, and every once in a while I would hear about a particular relationship that somebody had that was like front of their mind while they were working on the movie. The best example would be Jack O'Connell, who's obviously from out here. His father, who passed away when Jack was very young, I believe he was a teenager, who was an Irish immigrant. He would talk about his dad all the time while we were making the movie. He wanted Remy's accent to be, when he did the Lord's Prayer, he wanted his accent to be like his father's accent. He recommended Wild Mountain Time for the scene where they play the music, because that was a song that he would listen to with his dad. The night that we filmed the exterior surreal montage where we shot Sammy Miles there singing with the fire, that was the same night that we shot the Rocky Road to Dublin scene. And while we right in the middle of shooting that scene, it's like 3 a.m. In a swamp in Louisiana, and he pulls me close. Jack pulls me close, and he says, "Hey, today is my dad's birthday."
Oh my God.
And then I was like, "Yo, what?" And then so I duck off and start crying a little bit, and then he pulls me close again, and he says, "Hey, look at that star." He points to the North Star. He said, "That's my dad there." So then we did another take where everybody rushes, and he's looking up at the star before he closes his eyes, and we ended up using that in the take. But it was so incredibly moving. And it was a lot of stories like that, and I think everybody kind of left a little bit of themselves, a little bit of that grief, a little bit of that nostalgia in the movie. You know,
that's a very beautiful thing to share. That authenticity seems very genuine. The depth in the picture is incredible. I see someone waving. It could mean we have an extra visitor to the stage here. I'm going to see whether a famous face is going to walk. It is. Yes.
How you guys doing? Good seeing y'all.
Michael.
What's up,
Michael
sir?
B. Jordan, in case you've never heard of this
What's
gentleman.
going on?
I'm going to ask you, so playing twins.
Yes, sir.
Is that the best invitation an actor ever has, or is it the scariest invitation?
I should have had my other twin here for me to get this thing going. I think it was it was the thing that made me the most nervous.
Yeah.
But it was also the thing that made me the most excited, you know, about it. Besides working with Coogler again, and when he pitched to me the role or the roles, he really encouraged me to embrace that side of it, in a sense of, this is probably going to be the hardest thing that you've ever had to do, but thinks it's a great idea for me.
How did you start? Was the big thing to differentiate them? And if it was, which one did you start with?
I kind of started with both of them. It was the idea of, our childhood trauma shapes all of us as people. Our experiences as a kid, and Smoke and Stack had a very challenging one, a challenging start to life, and they had this moment where they lost their mother at birth, and the youngest one in Stack, the mom passed away, and the father kind of held that against him a little bit, growing up, and they had this very complex relationship with their father, and let that manifest in how they carried their trauma throughout their lives. Smoke internalized it. He didn't talk a lot. He didn't have a lot to say. He carried that pain and buried it deep inside of him. Stack's a little different. He uses his charisma and his charm and his levity, and constantly moving from one thing to the next because he didn't want to sit still long enough to kind of think about it. So, just kind of started from there, and that manifest itself in how they walked, the cadence in their speech.
And would you or Ryan care to share with us just a tiny insight into how you did it? Those two, when you're in scenes together, it seemed entirely seamless. Was there a little insight into what the trickery was?
Yeah, I could jump in there. We had to cast. Well, the first thing I did actually was I called Sean Durkin, who's a filmmaker from the States, who he actually works out here a lot. But I met him through the Sundance Labs. He did a film called Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, which was kind of like the breakout movie for Elizabeth Olsen. And he very recently did a show called Dead Ringers. That was like a reinterpretation of the old Cronenberg movie with Rachel Weisz playing identical twin gynecologists. It's like a tongue twister saying that. but I thought I watched the pilot for that show, and it blew me away. And I know Sean, so I called him up and asked him kind of how he did it, and he kind of gave me a little cheat sheet to start with. And then we hired our visual effects supervisors and and they came in and kind of broke down 3 different methodologies that we could use. One is your basic standard split screen where the camera doesn't move, and in that process, we had to we had to cast a twin double. We had to find somebody who could act, who also had like a physical build and complexion shape that was close enough to Mike so that he could be a good eye line for him. A gentleman named Percy Bill we found. But then once you get that done, you got to decide on his methodology. So you could do a split screen, which is the basic, the old Parent Trap, technique. And that's fine as long as the characters don't have any type of interaction or you're comfortable with not wanting to move the camera. The next stage, which is what we use most of the movie, like I would say 70% of the twin shots we use this methodology. It was called a techno dolly, which is essentially like a poor man's motion control unit, where you can program moves, up to a certain extent, and with that we could have a moving camera, and that becomes infinitely more complex, because the camera's moving, and if you have other things moving in the scene, a car, other actors, you got to be cognizant of that, and then so then Mike would do one performance as one of the twins. Percy would usually be there in the other performance. And then they would, after we got a take that we liked, we would then be married to that take. The timing of it, we would have speakers with ADR beeps, speakers with Mike's audio as the twin first. They would switch places. So Mike would have to run off, change, come back as a new twin. And same with Percy. So now Mike has something to look at. And then we would run it again with that timing. Basically edit it on the day, select our takes, and then we would have to merge those takes. But what would come with that sometimes is like a tennis ball pass. Like if there's things behind one of the twins that are included, like say it's Miles there, as it would be sometimes, or Wumi or Haley, or another actor, we have to do a pass, without both twins.
Yeah, wow.
Both twins coming out of the speakers, and then we would marry that. And the last one, which was the most technologically complex, was we would use a Halo rig, which was a system of, I believe, 8 cameras, 8 4K cameras. Kind of, it looked like iPhones. It was just a lens and a sensor, but it's an array. And we would put this thing on Mike, and then he would have to act, do the full performance, with this rig on, do his movements, so that we had all of that captured. And then that would then be projected essentially onto Percy's head. And those were for when there was like tremendous amounts of physical interaction, or it was a camera move that couldn't be repeatable, say on a steady cam. And I would say that ended up being like around 30% of the twin shots that we saw, like predominantly when they fighting each other in a couple of the complex steady cam shots. But it was wild what this man was able to do. In terms of his performances, he made it look easy, but it got to the point where you could tell which twin was coming to set.
Yeah.
Just about how they walked and how they sounded. You could have your back turned. Like if you heard people laughing, like he's cracking jokes and stuff, you could hear it. Like when he was stacked, you could hear like the ripple of him coming through. And then the same vibe with Smoke, like people would get out of his way, like it was a coldness to him. When he would come to set, that was really it was really creepy,
Amazing that with all of that, so that those three technological methodologies, and yet it seemed invisible because we just saw Smoke and Stack, and it's fascinating to hear, but it didn't remotely intrude. Miles, listen, you're in the middle of a dazzling musical career, a brilliant musical career, which indeed. And then you suddenly get the call to come and act for Mr. Coogler and with Mr. Jordan. So was that intimidating or was that irresistible?
Definitely irresistible, for sure. I mean, seeing Black Panther and Creed, man, I remember being in the theater watching Black Panther and just having that feeling that we all felt during that time, and then fast forward to be able to work with these guys and have that same impact on the next generation is just like a 360 moment for me. So just honestly an unbelievable experience to be able to work with both of these guys, and just feel extremely grateful and blessed for the opportunity.
Thank you. You know, one of the things I loved about what you did in the movie, I know this young gentleman does it as well beautifully, but was your listening. Your ability to listen in the movie was so natural. And you were so still, and when you were still, we could read so much. So did that come from your natural instincts, or from Mr. Coogler, or from the advice of Mr. Jordan? How did you find your way to Sammy?
I mean, I feel like it was a mix of everything. It started off with, after reading the script and kind of getting an understanding for the character, having, conversations with Ryan through Zoom, before production, just about Sammy's character, the importance of his character. He kind of explained Sammy to me as the lens for the audience, kind of what we're seeing or what Sammy's experiencing is the same stuff that the audience is seeing. So he's the lens, the guide for that. And once I understood that, that kind of started my process. I worked with Beth McGuire, incredible acting and dialect coach, and she really helped me to break down the script and start to build like a process of how I would go about, acting and just trying to get different emotions and stuff. And then once I got to set is when I was able to see everybody's different process. Mike's process is just, man, it's incredible. The work that he puts into developing the characters. I remember there would be days where we would go over the lines and I would see how he annotated and made notes about Smoke and Stack, and how he really like dug deep into finding why they do what they do. And that was something I definitely added to my process that made it really clear for me to see like what's important to Sammy, why he's doing what he's doing, what's his goals, what he's chasing.
Well, you did a beautiful job. Thank you very much. Mike, you also did a sensational job in 2 roles, and I wanted you to talk a little bit, please, if you wouldn't mind, about a particularly, for me, moving part of it. So you, in these 2 different characters, are involved with 2 complex love stories, one that is sort of underpinned by grief, and another one that is sort of underpinned by sort of apparent betrayal or rejection. Both men who love these women. The relationships are very grown up, it seems to me, very thick and very rich. And you got to play with 2 absolutely phenomenal actresses. Tell us a little bit about what it was like playing those relationships and working with those 2 fine artists.
It was an amazing experience. Getting to know the twins through the people that loved them and knew them the best was very interesting. And the dynamics of each partner, the way they treated the other brother. Stack and Mary had a very passionate, fierce, intense, almost toxic at times kind of dynamic, and the reality of why they could never be together. Stack communicates and talks, but he also lies a lot too, and I think there's a moment, there's a scene in the film when he finally tells her the truth about why they can never really be together, and that's something that he kind of alluded for a really, really long time and kind of ran from in a little bit. So that kind of why, that kind of dynamic was very layered to play. And Haley is a phenomenal actress, and has been working since she was young, and to see her blossom and grow into her the most mature and grown version of herself thus far, and it was very generous scene partner, and we would exchange playlists and songs and music. Music was definitely another language for us throughout this movie to kind of communicate through these scenes and through character. So we would listen to a bunch of music together and figure out where we were, in certain moments. And Smoke and Annie were quite different. They were their trauma and their struggle came through loss. That you find out, throughout the film, and that pain of loss caused their own troubles and obstacles of how their relationship, developed, and and Wumi was truly incredible in that. And you know, Annie became like the voice of wisdom throughout the night. You know, she was the one that everybody kind of went to. She was the mom of the group. You know, that kind of took care of everyone and gave them the, you know, all the information on how to survive a bit, and also the idea of what identical twins, how special and unique that relationship is. You know, they're really the same but different. And when it comes to the relationships with women and their significant other, how that puts a strain, because you're not getting one, you're getting two.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so
and when it comes to a significant other that wants to feel like they have them, you know, knowing that you would almost always be second to the brother puts a certain complexity to those dynamics, and you would feel that throughout the movie. And I thought that was pretty interesting to play.
Thank you. That complexity, I think, is complexity without the wrong kind of complication. That's a real keynote. It's so beautiful to get those layers. I thought those relationships are beautifully done, and I would also, say hats off to all of the acting in it. It was beautiful. Delroy Lindo, bloody hell, that's like he's such a. He's like, I'd call him a kind of oak tree actor, and it's just like he's just there, and there's no false. No, it's just bloody marvelous. Listen, we've got about 10 minutes to hear questions from our distinguished colleagues here, and Kate's gonna, if I can't see him, she's gonna point to various people, and there are roaming mics. And I believe we have a first question over here. Thank you.
Hey, incredible film. Ryan, the music, I wanted to quickly ask you, obviously collaborating with Ludwig again was awesome, but there was a lot of kind of heavier music in it as well as just the blues. Like, I can hear Metallica in there. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Absolutely. Man, so I love Metallica. And like the pacing of the movie, I wanted it to feel like the Metallica song One. If you ever heard the song, yeah. And for me, like the whole process, it was like a 360-degree process for me, like growing up in the Bay Area, where some of those guys like they live, you know what I mean? But I was a hip hop and R&B kid, you know. Born in 1986. You know, been listening to like rap my whole life. You know what I mean. And we had a radio station called KML where I'm from, and it was one rock song that I ever remember playing on that radio station, and like breaking through what we have called the 7 o'clock drop. You had to get like called in and requested, and it was Teen Spirit, Nirvana. And I remember like, you know, I didn't listen to rock, but I remember absolutely loving that song, and I could never like totally understand why. You know, got older obviously, and my uncle died, and I started listening to the music that he would play that I thought was just like old man music, and you know, and started to fall in love with it and listen to it, you know, like with an intentional ear. Started to study it. I went to film school, met Ludwig like you know, randomly, you know what I mean, and he was a jazz guitarist, but also like a rock guitarist, you know what I mean, like when we met, and I actually asked him. I'm rambling. I promise I'm gonna bring it back. But I actually asked him one day. I remember I'm like 21 years old. We walking across the campus of USC, and I'm like, yo, you in the composing school, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so can you play lots of instruments? And he fucking lied to me. He said no. You know, he was completely lying. but he says, but I play guitar really well. You know what I mean? I found out he plays every instrument. You know what I mean, later on. But he is an insane guitar player. And when I wrote this screenplay and was researching it, you know, I realized that the Delta blues basically, like, you know, it gave birth to pretty much all rock and roll music. And when you talk to musicologists, they'll tell you like the closest relative to it is grunge music. You know what I mean? Like they'll tell you straight up and down, like you know, that's blues music coming out of the Pacific Northwest, played by white dudes. You know what I mean? So it started to make sense when I went back and listened to Nirvana and Alice in Chains. And Ludwig's favorite band is Metallica. But I find out when it's time to go research shooting locations in Mississippi, Ludwig is like, yo, I want to go and I want to take my dad with me. His dad's born and raised in Linköping, Sweden. And I find out that his dad became a guitarist because he went to a blues concert, by John Lee Hooker at a time when black people couldn't tour in the United States, but they started to tour in Europe with rock musicians. Ludwig's dad sees John Lee Hooker, says, yo, I want to become a blues guitarist. Like, quits his job, becomes a blues guitarist and a music teacher, has a son, teaches his son guitar on Metallica riffs. Mm-hmm. That son moves to LA, fucking meets me. You know what I mean? And then we make a bunch of movies together, and then we get to make this. So it was like it was mind blowing that this music that my uncle listened to, that I thought was like old man music, had kind of like affected the world and even affected my life, you know. But yeah, like One is my favorite rock and roll song, and that tempo is what the movie is.
Those layers in this picture are extraordinary. I'm gonna see. I see a hand over there. The person in the glasses there. If the.
Brilliant. My second time seeing it. I wanted to ask about the sequence where you see music, past and future, and how you choreographed and executed the extraordinary scene.
The question is about music, past and future, and how Ryan choreographed that scene.
I'll try not to ramble this time. We worked on it really hard. Like we pre-vised it, and the whole cast and crew was really excited about that scene. Everybody would read the script, and like that would be the scene that they wanted to talk about, you know. And obviously we got an incredible song written by Raphael Sadiq, who's from Oakland, crazy enough, and worked with Ludwig, and basically said, hey, I've been having this blues song on my head my whole life. You know, I think it's a good time for it. Wound up being perfect for us. Miles killed it, and then our producers set up rehearsals for us, I think like once a week leading up to the shoot, where we would get in there with stand-ins and the dancers and the choreographer, and we would time everything out. The IMAX camera only can hold 70 seconds of film. So it's a stitched shot of 5 different shots put together. Shot over about 2.5 days. And, the department heads just went crazy, man. Art department, Ruth was like, Ruth's eyes, I've never seen Ruth that excited. And Ruth been making movies since I was a baby. So it was like, I knew we had some good when Ruth was like running around. And the whole cast and crew got involved. What was great was Ludwig was on set with his Pro Tools. So whenever we would need like an extension on timing on a cut, he would just adjust the music. You know what I mean? And like literally in the track, so we could stay on target. It was really fun.
I think I have time for only one more question, and I think I saw a hand up in the balcony, and someone is being handed a microphone right now. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's such an exceptional film that you've made. It's astronomical. It's so nerve-wracking asking a question. You don't want it to be shit. This is terrible. Oh my God.
Just go for it.
Leave it to me.
I've actually got the artists are so. Their work is so subtle and nuanced and so beautiful. I wanted to ask if you had any practices to empower your artists to bring out the incredible storytelling that they do in the film. And number 2, in terms of the allegory and mythical and biblical nature, especially of the number of 3 and the triune, I saw 3 birds so many times. When those guys come in there in 3s, these guys, men 3s, help me, Ryan. I'm racking my brain. I need to know what's going on. It's an exceptional film. I do have one critique though, but I'll tell you after.
Give it to me. Give it to me now. Go.
The critique is, it's a bit crude. I apologize. I'm dirty. But the women, everybody was getting their it was sexy. I needed Annie to get some real loving. I'm sorry. The back shots weren't hitting it for me.
You wanted more.
To be honest.
I understand.
Next Sinners 2, can we get some real
I understand completely.
Thank you.
I salute that. I salute that critique. No, we had a great intimacy coordinator. you know, everybody was felt safe. I mean, I don't want to speak for y'all.
I approve. We were safe. We felt safe.
So, funny story there. Has anybody here been bit by a horsefly, a proper horsefly? So while that intimacy scene was happening, I got bit by the biggest fucking horsefly you'll ever see in your life, and I had to call cut because I was in so much pain. So I apologize for chopping that there. Threes and like what she asked about the artists and performance in threes. Yeah, birds, 3 birds. Yeah, so yeah, we were the film. Yeah, the film obviously is dealing with a lot of fun stuff, but the contrast between the sacred and the profane, Christianity and the quote unquote devil's music, as it was called at the time, blues music, and how much that they have in common. We were having a lot of fun with, and you know, obviously in Christianity, the Holy Trinity, the rule of threes, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. You know, so we were playing with that, quite a bit. In the you know, in a lot of trios in the movie. A lot of that fun stuff. But Ludwig and Michael Shaver, our picture editor, had a lot of fun with it as well. Like when Andy strikes the match, it's always 3 matches. You know, a lot of the stumps in blues, you know, are in the threes in the Pale Pale Moon. And then we triple it up when the dude was getting the shit kicked out of him. You know, but yeah, good on you to spot the threes.
Yeah.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Listen, I'm afraid to say that the final 3 of this afternoon is to say thank you to 3 amazing artists, Ryan and Miles and Mike.